There is a version of kindness that is actually a form of self-abandonment. It looks like generosity from the outside. It looks like someone who is agreeable, accommodating, easy to be around, always willing to help, never difficult, never demanding. And for a long time, maybe your whole life up to this point, you've been told that those are good qualities. That being this way makes you a good person, that putting others first is something to be proud of. But here's what that version of you actually feels like from the inside. You say yes when you mean no. You apologize for things that aren't your fault. You shrink your opinions in rooms where someone might disagree. You do things for people not because you genuinely want to, but because the anxiety of not doing them is worse than the exhaustion of doing them. You leave conversations and immediately replay them, wondering if you said something wrong, if someone is upset with you, if you managed everyone's feelings well enough. You are so focused on how other people are receiving you that you have almost no idea what you actually want, actually think, actually feel, because those things got buried so long ago under the habit of managing everyone else's experience. That is not kindness. That is fear wearing kindness's clothes. And the cruelest part is that it doesn't even work. The relationships built on people-pleasing are not deep relationships. They are transactions. You give and give and give. Your time, your agreement, your authentic reactions, and in return, you get approval that feels good for a moment and means almost nothing. Because it's not you being approved of, it's the performance of you. The version of you that never says the wrong thing, never takes up too much space, never asks for anything too inconvenient. And somewhere underneath all of that, the real you is waiting. Quieter and smaller every year, wondering why connection still feels so lonely. This video is about how to stop. Not by becoming cold or selfish or blunt in a way that damages every relationship you have, but by learning to be honest, boundaried, and genuine in a way that actually makes people respect and trust you more, not less. Because the paradox of people-pleasing is that the people you're trying to keep close with your constant accommodation are the same people who, on some level, sense that they don't actually know you, and you can't be truly close to someone you don't actually know. Let's start with where people-pleasing comes from. Because understanding the root is not just therapeutic, it's strategic. It tells you what you're actually solving for. People-pleasing almost always originates in an environment where expressing your authentic self felt unsafe or costly. Maybe you grew up in a household where conflict was explosive and keeping the peace was survival. Maybe you learned early that love was conditional, that approval came when you behaved a certain way and withdrew when you didn't. Maybe you experienced social rejection at a formative age, and your brain concluded that fitting in required constant monitoring and adjustment of how you came across. Maybe you were simply sensitive to other people's emotions and gradually took on the responsibility of managing them. Whatever the specific origin, the conclusion your brain reached was the same. My authentic self, my real opinions, my real needs, my real reactions, is a liability. The safe version of me is the agreeable version. The version that doesn't push back, doesn't ask for too much, doesn't make things uncomfortable. And that conclusion, forged in a context where it may have been genuinely necessary, is now running your adult relationships in contexts where it is doing enormous damage. The first thing to understand about stopping people-pleasing is that the anxiety you feel when you consider saying no, setting a boundary, or disagreeing with someone, that anxiety is not a signal that you're about to do something wrong. It is your nervous system doing what it was trained to do. It learned that the cost of being authentic was disapproval or conflict. It is trying to protect you from that cost. And when you start behaving authentically anyway, when you start saying no, expressing your actual opinion, declining to over-explain yourself, the anxiety will be there. It will feel like danger. It will tell you that you are about to lose something important. You are not. But you have to be willing to feel the fear and act anyway, at least in the beginning, until your nervous system accumulates enough evidence that being honest doesn't destroy the relationships you value. Because it won't. The relationships worth keeping can handle your honesty. The ones that can't were only ever built on the performance, not on you. Now, let's get practical. Because the thing most people-pleasing content gets wrong is that it tells you to just start saying no and setting limits without telling you how to do it in a way that actually preserves the relationship. And the how matters enormously. Because there is a spectrum between people-pleasing and being rude, and most people think it's narrower than it is. They think stopping people-pleasing means becoming blunt and difficult. It doesn't. There is an enormous amount of space between whatever you want, I'm totally fine with anything, and no, I don't want to do that. And learning to inhabit that space, to be honest and warm at the same time, is the actual skill. The first practical shift is learning to pause before you respond. People pleasers almost always respond immediately, and that immediacy is the problem. The yes comes out before you've checked whether you mean it. The apology comes out before you've decided whether it's warranted. The agreement comes out before you've actually formed an opinion. That reflexive speed is the habit, and the first interruption to the habit is just a beat of silence. A moment to actually check in with yourself. What do I actually think about this? Do I actually want to do this? Am I apologizing because I did something wrong or because someone is uncomfortable? That pause feels uncomfortable at first because people pleasers are acutely sensitive to gaps in interaction. Every silence feels like something that needs to be filled. Every hesitation feels like something that needs to be smoothed over. But the pause is essential. You cannot give an honest response if you haven't consulted your honest self. And that consultation takes a second. The second shift is learning to say no in a way that is clear without being cold. The people pleaser's version of no is usually one of two things: either an immediate yes that they resent, or an elaborate, over-explained, over-apologized refusal that is so hedged and qualified and softened that it barely registers as a no and leaves the door open for the other person to push again. Both of those are symptoms of the same problem. The belief that a direct no is inherently unkind. It isn't. A direct no, delivered warmly, is one of the most respectful things you can give someone. It respects their time by not stringing them along. It respects the relationship by being honest in it. And it respects yourself by honoring what you actually have to give. You don't need a reason. You don't need to justify it. You don't need to make the other person feel okay about it before you've even said it. I can't make that work. That doesn't work for me. I'm going to pass on this one. Short, clear, warm in tone even when firm in content. No lengthy explanation that the other person can find holes in. No apology for having a limit. Just a clear, kind statement of where you actually stand. The third shift, and this one goes to the core of what people-pleasing actually is learning to tolerate someone else's disappointment without treating it as your emergency. This is the hardest one. Because the reason people-pleasers say yes when they mean no, apologize when they've done nothing wrong, and contort themselves to manage everyone's feelings is not because they don't know they're doing it. It's because the alternative, someone being disappointed or frustrated or upset, feels unbearable. The emotional discomfort of the other person lands in the people-pleaser's body like their own discomfort, sometimes even worse, and the only way to make it stop is to fix it, to accommodate, to smooth it over, to make the bad feeling go away. But here is the truth that changes everything. Other people's emotional reactions to your honest self are their responsibility, not yours. You are responsible for being kind. You are responsible for being respectful and considerate in how you communicate. You are not responsible for managing how someone feels about the fact that you said no. You are not responsible for fixing the disappointment that comes from having a limit. That disappointment belongs to them. And letting them have it, without rushing to take it away, without over-explaining yourself, without immediately reversing your position to restore their comfort, is not cruelty. It is maturity. It is treating them as an adult capable of handling an honest answer. The people in your life who genuinely care about you, who want a real relationship with you, not just a convenient one, will not leave because you started being honest. They will adjust. There will be a period where the dynamic shifts, and that shift is uncomfortable for everyone. But on the other side of that discomfort is something that people-pleasing has never given you and cannot give you: a relationship where both people are actually present, where both people are actually known, where trust exists, not because one person is always agreeable, but because both people can count on each other for the truth. The fourth shift is about your opinion specifically, because one of the most common and most damaging forms of people-pleasing is the habit of not having one, or rather, not expressing one. Staying neutral, agreeing with whoever spoke last, modifying your view to match the energy of the room, performing curiosity about other people's perspectives while quietly burying your own. This is exhausting, and it is also, when you're honest with yourself about it, a little dishonest. Because you do have opinions, you do have preferences, you do have reactions, you've just learned to keep them under the surface because the surface is safer. Start small. In low-stakes situations, a restaurant, a movie choice, a question about what you've been thinking about, give your actual answer. Not a hedged, provisional, easily retractable version, your actual answer. Honestly, I'd rather do this. I didn't love that, I found it kind of predictable. I actually have a different take on that. The world will not end. The conversation will not collapse. And every time you do it, the neural pathway that connects your authentic self to your expressed self gets a little stronger and a little easier to access. Over time, something remarkable happens. The anxiety decreases, not because the situations get less challenging, but because your nervous system is accumulating evidence. It's watching you express a real opinion and seeing that the relationship survived. It's watching you say no and seeing that the person didn't leave. It's watching you disappoint someone and seeing that the world kept turning and the relationship remained, and slowly, the alarm that used to fire at the first sign of self-expression gets quieter, not silent, but quieter, manageable, no longer in charge. And what fills the space that the people-pleasing leaves behind is something you've been missing for a very long time. It's the sense of your own presence in your own life. The experience of being in a conversation and actually being there. Not managing it, not monitoring it, not performing in it, but actually genuinely there, saying what you think, feeling what you feel, taking up your actual space without apology. That feeling is not arrogance. It is not selfishness. It is what it feels like to be a real person in real relationships, and it is available to you. Not someday, not after years of therapy, not once you've finally earned enough approval to feel safe. Now, in the next conversation, in the next moment where someone asks what you think and your honest answer is different from what you assume they want to hear, say the honest answer, feel the fear, watch the relationship survive. Do it enough times and you'll wonder why you ever believed that shrinking yourself was the price of being loved. Because the people who truly love you were never asking for that price. You were paying it voluntarily, to a debt that was never actually real. Drop a comment. What's the situation where you find it hardest to stop people pleasing? I want to know. Subscribe if this one hits something real for you. Every week, something that matters. See you in the next one.